When a young mechanic named Lucas stopped everything to fix a broken wheelchair for a stranger's son, he never imagined that small act would change the entire course of his life. What started as a quiet gesture of kindness would lead to an offer he couldn't refuse, and a future no one could have predicted. Years later, when he locked eyes with that same boy in an unexpected place, neither of them could hold back the tears. This is not just a story about generosity. It's about how one moment can ignite a lifelong mission. Lucas started his mornings early, before the sun had fully risen over the small town. His hands were always busy with engines, gears, and worn-out tools, but his heart was something else entirely. He didn't talk much, didn't care about proving anything to anyone. In the front pocket of his worn jumpsuit, he kept a dried daisy, a weekly ritual in memory of his younger sister. People in the town liked Lucas. He was quiet, polite, and dependable. But no one ever called him important. He didn't wear fancy watches or speak in big words. His life revolved around fixing what others gave up on: rusty bikes, old tractors, broken dreams. Yet sometimes, the most unexpected stories begin in the quietest places. That afternoon, a rusty van slowly pulled up to the front of his garage. The side door creaked open, and a small boy climbed out with effort. He looked about 7 or 8, his arms skinny, his eyes more shy than scared. Behind him stood his mother, clothes worn, hair in disarray, but her eyes sharp and protective. The boy was using a battered wheelchair that seemed moments from falling apart. One wheel was tilted sideways, and the frame was rusted and bent. "Hi," the woman said softly, almost embarrassed to speak. "I'm sorry to bother you, but do you think this chair can be fixed?" Lucas didn't respond right away. He looked at the boy. The kid wasn't crying, but he clutched the armrest like he was apologizing to it. Lucas crouched down, inspecting the wheelchair in silence. After a few moments, he stood and said simply, "I can fix it." The woman reached into her pocket. A few coins and a crumpled couple of bills. She offered them with shaky hands, but Lucas gently pushed them away. "No," he said firmly. "This one's on me." The woman blinked rapidly. The boy looked up, eyes flickering with surprise and hope. Lucas carried the chair into the garage and got to work. He didn't ask questions, didn't say much. Just focused. He replaced the broken armrest, tightened every bolt, fixed the brake system, straightened the bent wheel. The care he showed wasn't just for a machine. It was as if he was rebuilding something fragile and important. The woman sat nearby with her son, holding his hand as they watched. The boy's eyes followed Lucas' every move. When the work was done, the chair looked not only functional, but strong. Safe. Lucas walked over and gave the boy a small nod. "Wanna try it out?" The boy hesitated, then slowly sat down. He wheeled forward, then turned, then picked up speed. He began spinning gently, maneuvering easily. A smile spread across his face. Pure, unfiltered joy. The woman was crying now. Quiet tears of relief. "What's your name?" she asked, barely audible. "Lucas," he replied. Just Lucas. It felt like that was the end of it. A small act of kindness in a small town. But no one knew what tomorrow would bring. Because this small repair, this simple act of humanity, would set in motion something so big, the whole town would be watching. And when they looked up into the sky the next day, they would see a helicopter. And a miracle. 2 days after the incident with the wheelchair, Lucas was back in his usual rhythm. Wrench in hand, old country music playing softly from a dusty radio, and the faint scent of motor oil in the air. He didn't expect anything different from that morning. But at 9:47 a.m. sharp, a sleek black car pulled up outside the garage. Not the kind that belonged in their sleepy little town. The engine hummed like silk, and when the door opened, a man in an expensive suit stepped out, holding a briefcase. "Lucas?" the man asked, adjusting his tie. Lucas looked up, blinking through the sunlight. "Yeah. My name is Daniel Crane. I represent the Carter Foundation." Lucas tilted his head. "Can't say I've heard of it." "We saw what you did," the man replied, pulling out a tablet. On the screen was a paused video. Lucas kneeling beside the little boy, working on the wheelchair. Lucas's heart sank. He didn't like cameras, and he sure didn't like attention. Crane must have sensed his discomfort. "Don't worry. It wasn't for publicity." Someone from our foundation happened to be visiting family nearby. He saw the whole thing. Lucas crossed his arms. And we help fund community heroes. People who make a difference without expecting anything in return. And you, Lucas, you fixed more than a wheel that day. You showed character. Lucas gave a slight scoff. I'm just a mechanic. Crane smiled. You're also a man of integrity. That's rarer than you think. He opened the briefcase and slid a thick folder across the workbench. Lucas hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a full scholarship offer. Mechanical engineering at a top university. Housing, tuition, even a stipend. I never even finished high school, Lucas muttered. Doesn't matter. You'll start with a placement program. We'll help you get there. Lucas leaned against the bench, stunned. His whole life had been oil-stained rags, second-hand tools, and working until his hands went numb. A future like this? It wasn't just unexpected. It felt like a fantasy. Then he thought of his dad. The farm accident. The lost dreams. The days when they couldn't afford new shoes, let alone a new future. He looked up. Why me? Crane answered simply, because you didn't ask why bother? That night, Lucas sat in his empty trailer, staring at the stars through the broken blinds. The folder sat open on the table, his name written in bold. It wasn't about escaping the garage. It was about rising with the tools life had given him. And he was ready to build something greater. Lucas didn't answer David right away. He spent the night in his garage, sitting under the flickering fluorescent light, rereading the boy's letter over and over again. Something inside him shifted. It wasn't pride. It wasn't opportunity. It was purpose. The next morning, he called David. I accept, he said simply. 3 weeks later, Lucas's garage was no longer just a mechanic's corner. It was transformed into a small innovation lab. Quiet, but powerful. With David's foundation behind him and his own relentless work ethic, Lucas learned everything he could about mobility engineering, assistive design, and adaptive technology. He wasn't trying to get rich. He was trying to make a difference. Within a year, Lucas launched his own startup, creating high-performance, affordable wheelchairs for children with disabilities. But he didn't sell them in stores. Instead, he partnered with hospitals, schools, and nonprofits, giving them away to those who needed them the most. News began to spread. From grease-stained mechanic to mobility innovator, one headline read. Another simply said, meet the man who fixes more than machines. But Lucas kept his head down. He worked. He built. He remembered why he started. 5 years later, Lucas was invited to speak at a national expo for adaptive technology in Chicago. He wasn't the best speaker, and he still wore the same plain work boots. But when he stood on stage, the crowd listened. As he finished his talk and stepped down from the podium, someone in the crowd approached him. A young man in a sleek, custom wheelchair. His eyes were wide. Familiar. Lucas. The boy said, his voice deeper now. Lucas turned and froze. It was him. The same boy from all those years ago. Taller now. Confident. But the eyes, still the same. I never forgot you, the young man said. I study mechanical engineering now. I want to do what you do. Lucas's voice caught in his throat. The boy smiled and continued. I kept the chair you fixed. It's in my room. And every time I doubt myself, I look at it and remember what one act of kindness can do. Lucas's eyes welled up. He placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. You already started doing it, he whispered. In a world that often looks the other way, one man had looked closer and changed the direction of another's life. And maybe in doing so he changed his own. Sometimes, the smallest gestures leave the biggest marks. Lucas didn't set out to change the world. He simply saw someone in need and acted with heart. But from that one quiet act of kindness, a future was born. A future where mobility, dignity, and compassion are accessible to all. His transformation from a humble mechanic into a visionary who builds life-changing technology reminds us that heroism isn't loud. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes, it's found in the hands that fix, the eyes that understand, and the hearts that choose to care. And years later, when Lucas saw the boy whose broken wheelchair had once sparked this entire journey, now smiling, independent, and full of life, it became clear that some stories don't just end. They ripple forward. If this story moved you, made you reflect, or reminded you of the power of everyday kindness, we invite you to be part of our community. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that prove goodness is still out there, and it starts with you.